Say, Captain, some time ago we shared our view on the current problems with aircraft carriers and related mechanics, as well as a draft of the required changes to rectify them. Required changes. Okay. And thank God it was just a draft, right? The goals we set were to reduce aircraft spotting overall, good idea. Remove unintentional spotting by aircraft. That's almost a redundant statement. And make AA more impactful while ensuring aircraft carriers remain viable in battles. Okay. Basically, get rid of the feels bad. No problem. We conducted several public tests for different tweaks in this direction in 2024 and 2025. And the feedback on those was not good. Initially, we planned one large rework that would resolve all issues at once, and in process, make more. However, as the core changes moved into the next iteration of testing, we released in updates 14.7 and 15 some of the smaller changes which improved the game on their own and moved us closer to achieving the mentioned goals. And I agree that the stuff they changed so far, no problems with. Ain't got an issue. This approach worked well, so we're applying it to the whole process of aircraft carrier improvements. We are switching to an iterative approach, I think is how you pronounce that, where we focus on delivering significant improvements targeted at resolving issues one at a time rather than all at once. No shit, that's what everybody was saying to do to begin with. This means we will be gradually releasing changes that have proven viable during internal and external testing on a cadence of several updates during this year. However, the scope of changes that will make it into the game may differ from what was tested before. God, I hope so. The process will continue until we achieve the set goals, and after that, we can pause the introduction of new changes to aircraft carriers for a while to see how the ship type settles. AKA, fix it, don't break it. This is exactly what everybody was telling him to do. We have more things cooking in our development kitchen for carriers and related mechanics, but we will only be ready to share details closer to their release. Today we will focus on the changes that are coming in 15.2. Okay, patrol fighters. Recently, we refined the tactical role of fighters by removing their ability to spot enemy ships while increasing their defensive capabilities. So I have zero issues with that. I've been saying for a long time that they should have removed the spotting from fighters. Increasing their defensive capabilities is not something I had previously suggested in the way that they did it, but I think it's actually a really good idea. For the primarily airstrikes and ASW, they will attack those out of the gate. There's no lead up time to them as long as the planes reach its altitude. They just immediately attack them, and it'll be one after the other until they drop their ordnance. And or they do X number of damage to the planes beforehand, and it doesn't dissipate the fighter. That's one of the other cool things. So they could just stick around. So if you're getting harassed by a Dutch cruiser and a CV, it'll attack the Dutch cruiser planes in sequence, and then it'll go after the CV planes when they're in range. It's like, why not? But if it goes after the CV planes, it will dissipate. Not a problem. That's fine. In light of these changes, we can expand how carriers use fighters. This is what we're about to get to is something that I had been suggesting back when they did this horse shit. So it's like, you want to change fighters? Why don't you do this and actually allow the CVs to do something like, oh, I don't know, help the team? Novel concept. Because everybody screams for air support, right? Everybody's like, "Oh, provide anti-aircraft fire support," right? And the people will spam this button, but they don't seem to realize that planes can't bilocate. I can't just appear over you and drop fighters. It doesn't work. So you have to kind of guess where they're going to be, and try to. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. So, and for the longest time, the best defense against a CV has been to group up. Fighters are still incredibly powerful if you get them set right. If you don't get them set right, well, right? So with the release of update 15.2, we're going to change the patrol fighters. Patrol fighters, okay? That's a pivotal piece here. Because patrol fighters is the ones that are dropped by squadrons. Anybody else is not a patrol fighter. So what you launch off catapults are not patrol fighters. They're just fighters. They have named the consumable differently. So what launches off the CV's flight deck just to cover the CV, and anything that's a catapult fighter is just a fighter. So they're changing the patrol fighters so that aircraft carrier commanders will be able to send them to a selected area of the map. Novel concept. This will expand a carrier's ability to counter other carriers and support teammates' position far away from it without the need to fly all the way there to do so. This allows the carrier commander to focus on pursuing their primary combat goals, such as attacking enemy ships, because they don't want us doing nothing but spotting, which, again, no shit. It will also give carrier players an additional way to meaningfully, bleh, that word that I can't speak, influence the battle during their flight toward enemy positions. Okay, so how will it work? You'll be able to activate this consumable while controlling a squadron equipped with patrol fighters. Again, patrol fighters. Okay, when you activate this consumable, the tactical map will appear and you'll be able to select an area with a certain range from the current position of your aircraft wherever you want to deploy the fighters. Okay, so it's, nothing, not exactly rocket science there. It reminds me a little bit of the calling an artillery strike in the older Call of Duties. Pulls up the map and you go, here, it's kind of. It takes some time for the patrol fighters to reach the chosen area. The further it is from the launching squadron, the longer it takes for the fighters to get there. That's fair. I have no issue with that. That's going to make some interesting pieces for timing, though. So you've got to kind of think ahead. It's still depending on what kind of time delay you're looking at, which will probably vary from squadron to squadron, and it will also depend on if what skills you take. Yeah, like enhanced reactions. Enhanced reactions is going to increase your time to get there. So, but that also could mean if you see where their fighters are and they're dropping, or rather, if you see where their attack aircraft are, and all of a sudden you see them drop a fighter, you've potentially got time to get in and do your attack and get out before that fighter even gets there, let alone latches. So there's still ways you could play around this as a CV, which I do really like that idea. Because you don't want to have it just so you could do nothing but basically play whack-a-mole and knock out the other CV. You've got to make it so the CV has a chance to deal with it in a way other than just hitting recall, so or just losing planes. So I think that's a good idea. Once you launch patrol fighters, a counter will display on how long it will take you to reach the designated area. The consumables tooltip shows the time required to reach the area located at the patrol fighter's max range. So if it's 10 clicks away, whatever that time on the tooltip says, it'll be calculating that for 10 clicks, not 5. So it'll be reduced by 50% if you drop it at 5, presumably. Cool. So in other words, if I actually get right on top of you, I can still drop it quicker. Spiffy. In the designated area, the smoke signal and icon will appear, serving as a marker for the area for other ships to see. This marker will display the time remaining until. Okay, I've seen some of this, and we're going to get to that in a second. But the smoke signal, I think, is a really cool idea. Basically, because you don't have a lot of people looking at their minimap or going with their camera. They're too busy looking at all the other ships. And if you see a column of smoke, it'd be like, hey. I can't tell you how many times I've dropped a fighter on somebody and they're still screaming for air support. I'm like, motherfucker, look at your minimap or look up. It's right there. How are you missing this? Air support, air support. So I think that will help alleviate some of that, which, you know, again, will help them feel like the CV's actually trying to help them. I think that's a good idea. Ba, 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 ba. Marker will display the time remaining until the patrol fighter arrives. Okay, so you know you've got 10 seconds or whatever the hell it is until he gets there. That's awesome. Enemies will also be able to see them. Okay, no problem with that. Again, it allows the CV to counter it allows you to play against it, uh, which is good. Or, you know, if you're like, yeah, I don't want that fighter there because I want to be able to have my CV come in and do stuff. I'm gonna push up enough that I can blow that fighter out. Cool. You know, different things like that. Because fighters tend to be fairly weak on hit points anyway. So, I mean, if you decide to push into that ring just specifically to destroy the fighters, nice tactical maneuver there. Good ribbons for you. Hey. Once the fighters arrive in the chosen area, they will start patrolling, acting the same way they do as the old patrol fighters. Okay, cool. So as long as you understand how that works, but a lot of people don't understand how fighters work to begin with, but that's okay. I do have videos that I'm going to be making soon, specifically about fighters. Anyway, I was already planning them, and I see this, and I'm like, cool, thanks, you're making this easy for me. All commander skills related to patrol fighters, search and destroy, patrol group leader, interceptor, enhanced reactions will still apply to the consumable. Cool. Enhanced reactions will also increase the time it takes patrol fighters to reach the selected area. No shit. So, okay. So if you want to fighter spec yourself, you know, search and destroy is going to give you the increased patrol range, patrol group leader. Oh my god, my brain just flatlined on what patrol group leader does. I want to say it gives you one more charge. Interceptor changes it so they won't attack fighters at all, and enhanced reactions it doubles your time to or increases your time to arrive by 50%, but drops the latch time by 80% or something to that effect. My percentages might be off, but I almost never use enhanced reactions in all honesty. So similar to how it works now, the cooldown of patrol fighters will still begin after the squadron either leaves the battlefield or is destroyed. Okay. Okay. So if we take a look at this guy. Okay. So you can see where somebody else has dropped a fighter there, and he's getting ready to select spot. Yeah, basically right on top of him. So you can see the countdown timers there on the fighters. So there's 2 red fighters and this one here. So this one's about halfway there. I don't know if I'm not sure what direction that's supposed to be counting. Let's see if we could watch it again. Okay, so it does count down. Yeah, it's counting this direction. Okay. So this one's halfway there. This one just got dropped. This one's going to beat this one here, but probably end up engaging this one if he doesn't get shot down by all this shit here. Okay. Works for me. No problem with that. And you can see the smoke screen columns here. So that's interesting. Hopefully that'll help people spot it. Yeah. That's pretty easy to spot from a surface ship perspective. I like that. I think that's a good idea. And then you can see it from way the hell out in Dodge. Okay. Now, one of the other things I do think is interesting, I don't know if they were just testing it this way, but is this is 6v6? Is that a clan battle setup? This looks like a clan battle setup. That's interesting. Okay. So that's what they're changing to fighters. Okay. Again, I don't have issue with this. I think it's a good idea. If you guys have different opinions or want me to clarify something, by all means, pop it into chat. Let's see. Evasive maneuver. Currently, some of the aircraft squadrons in the game are equipped with consumable, which will increase their survivability in most cases. This consumable fulfills this purpose quite well. I don't understand what they mean by most cases, but okay. However, its usage is not clearly indicated to the surface ship player, which can make the AA defense appear ineffective, since it seems like the enemy aircraft do not receive sufficient damage during an attack, when in reality they are simply repairing themselves. To make such interactions more consistent, we are replacing the repair consumable with another one, evasive maneuver. Surface ships will be able to notice when an enemy squadron is using evasive maneuver by I just lost my headphones because there's no audio playing. Go figure. Um, there we go. Where was it? They'll be able to notice when they're using evasive maneuver by the change in the color of their AA damage, as well as by a series of maneuver animations performed by the planes. Okay, so the way I'm reading this entire thing, they're not changing this on us. We're still going to have damage mitigation. What they're doing is making the player realize, or the surface ship players realize they're healing. Because it's one of those things where everybody kind of knows if you're trying to farm down something like uh, a Minotaur or a conch or anything that has like this ridiculous heal, you're like, kill them before they heal, kill them, and you start worrying about that and you're trying to take them out. The second you see their hit points coming back up, you're like, shit, and everybody understands that on the surface. They don't pay attention to it with planes, for one, and for two, it's actually kind of hard to see, so I can't fault people for not exactly paying attention to it. Um, so, I mean, it's just like, oh, look, here come planes, fine. DFAA, priority sector. Blah! And you're watching them not die because you can't really see what their hit points are doing on an individual plane level because all you see is green bar for each plane. So you can't see them dropping at all. So that, if somebody hits DFA or whatnot, I'm like, oh, I want to strike this anyway. Heal, ha ha ha. And I can potentially get through and do some stuff. They might take out some planes on the way, but I'm still going to be effectively able to get in through that. This, I think, really does get rid of the feels bad man because they'll say, shit, he's used a consumable to come in and get me. I mean, yeah, you're still going to have people that are going to still be upset, but like, oh, I got touched. I'm mad. It's a game. Get over it. You're going to get touched by something, whether it's the CV, this a sub, or worse, you're throwing 4,000 rounds in 15 seconds. Whatever. It's going to happen. But if I burn a consumable to do that, it might make players feel a little bit better of, okay, he's using a consumable specifically to come after me. Yay. And the second issue with the repair consumable is it is partially restored a squadron's hit point pool, meaning its effectiveness depended on how many aircraft remained intact. In contrast, evasive maneuver will provide... Wait a minute. Hold on. Partially restored a squadron's hit point pool, meaning its effectiveness depended on how many aircraft remain intact. I mean, sort of. Sort of. In contrast, evasive maneuver will provide the same chance to avoid damage regardless of how many aircraft remain in the squadron. In other words, even if your squadron is down to just a few aircraft, activating this consumable will significantly increase the chances of reaching the enemy and carrying out an attack. But in exchange, and unlike repair consumable, the new consumable won't be able to repair aircraft retroactively. Okay. So overall, following the introduction of evasive maneuver, the survivability of aircraft will remain roughly the same. However, proper timing when using the consumable will be even more critical. Okay. So you have to be smarter about how you use it. That's not a problem. That's going to be a bit more of a skill check on the CV player. Which, honestly, what I think is kind of funny about this is I watch several streamers will pull out a CV. And it's like, you do realize the squadrons have consumables, right? You can use them, right? it's they I can't tell you how many just don't even bother to hit the repair. So I think that's kind of funny. But I do like the fact that they're basically helping surface players understand when I'm using a consumable to go after them. This sounds like they're going to make the timing, because I can't retroactively heal them, your time is going to be more critical on when you use this. So right now, a lot of times you'll come in and you'll hit the target and you'll start healing on your way out to try and retain the planes. Now, obviously, I haven't played with evasive maneuver, so I'm not sure how this is going to react yet. But you'll use the damage reduction of coming in on the attack to drop your ordnance, and it's almost always torpedoes. So you come in, you drop your ordnance, and you have a 50% damage reduction during the attack run. So drop your ordnance, and then once you regain control of, if you don't cancel the attack animation, then you start taking damage from AA again. That's typically when you heal. Unless the AA is just really bad and you've got to hit it just to get in there. So it sounds like the timing on this might change. But at the end of the day, it's going to be 6 one, half dozen the other, with a little bit more of a skill floor. So I have to be smarter about how I use it. Okay, I ain't got no issue with that. I think some things should be harder for CVs. So we will see. By activating the consumable, an aircraft squadron will be able to avoid a significant percentage of incoming AA damage, as well as damage from enemy fighters. Interesting. So that's basically, you can heal through enemy fighters right now if you time it right, depending on the fighters, and yeah, if depending on a couple factors, you can essentially heal through fighters. With standard parameters, evasive maneuver will allow aircraft to avoid 80% of incoming damage, though the exact values may vary upon by aircraft carrier. Okay, cool. So we might get some fun little gimmicks on that. Some of the gimmicks might actually lower that down, so it'll be less effective. Okay. Squadrons that previously had the repair consumable with non-standard parameters will also receive the evasive maneuver consumable with non-standard parameters. There isn't a repair in the game that's. I mean, the cooldown on it is the only real change. Okay, that makes no sense. Because they all last 5 seconds. I'm not sure what they're talking about non-standard parameters. But I think the only thing that's different is the cooldown. And let's see, the repair specialist skill, which increase the reaction time, and that will actually add it to 5.5 seconds with the repair specialist. Increase the action time of the repair consumable, and the number of its charges will be replaced with the new skill maneuvering specialist. With the following parameters: reload time for evasive maneuver consumables -5%, charges of evasive maneuvers +1. Okay. And India Delta will increase evasive maneuvers by 20% for the action time. Cool. So it gives you a little bit more leeway to get in there. Let's see what this looks like. So they're just basically shifting around. But I wasn't seeing any damage hit. Yeah, you're not seeing damage numbers hit. Interesting. And that's the evasive maneuvers. Okay. Manually controlled carrier consumables. This is the one that I was just kind of like, I'm trying to figure out use cases for this one. Last year, we introduced the ability to manually control aircraft carriers' secondary guns, giving captains commanding them an additional tactical options and ways to defend themselves. At the same time, we improved carriers' fire resistance and reduced both the duration and cooldown of their damage control party. Yeah, that was huge for survivability, especially with some of the things they've done. And in all honesty, I didn't really notice this. I mean, I knew it happened, but it hasn't really changed how I play anything. So in 15.2, we're further expanding your control over the aircraft carriers in battle by adding the option to disable automatic activation and use of damage control party and fighters. This will give experienced captains the opportunity to use consumables at the optimal moment, depending on combat situation. This is how these consumables will work on aircraft carrier. Hey, PMG, what's going on, man? We're going through the notes of what they're going to do in 15.2. So, see, you can switch between auto and manual modes by pressing Shift plus the key bound to the corresponding consumable. Okay? The game will remember your last setting for a particular ship and use them in future battles. So does this mean I can use them when I am not, uh, or when I'm actually on my squadron? Or are they going to force me to recall? Unless you map them to something different. Note that that in light of the incoming changes during 1 week of 15.2, you'll be able to retrain your aircraft carrier commanders with a 100% discount. Yay! More details will be available in the World of Warships official portal. Okay. So this could essentially make fighter builds more viable with these changes, because right now fighter builds are kind of shit. Evasive maneuver is working on a feels good for surface ship players, and increasing the skill floor necessary to utilize it over the repair specialist or repair party. Excuse me. This one though, I'm like, where would I use this? That makes zero sense to me. ASW is still going to be automatic, according to this. But the damage control party and fighters have a 10-minute lifespan. You get spotted, they launch. Where's the problem? I don't understand why. I mean, about the only use case I can think of for this, not getting rid of a ping from a submarine.